Hey, how you doing? Live from the streets of Kansas City. We're in Kansas City, right? Yep. We're in Kansas City. Kansas City. I don't know if I can trace the route of the Jefferson Highway. What time is it? I don't have that much time. I can sure try. Waiting for people to pass. I'm working on my live stream box. I'm trying to make a compact little carry case for my ATEM Blackmagic ATEM mini switcher, and the idea is that I bring in this little case. It has a monitor, which is also the recorder built into it. You flip it open almost like a little laptop, and then just plug in your cables in the back, your power and your cameras. Now, if I had a little more patience, I would have done it the way the instructions told me, and the guy who built the patterns for the box. But some of it was like, yeah, I don't know if it's completely necessary. I'll buy little bits and pieces as I go. I need to get the HDMI ribbon cable so I can run the cable through the box to the monitor without having to loop it around like I have it, which is the way he has it. But I'm not as able a craftsman as this guy is. But maybe he isn't either. I don't know, because sometimes people do things like, how would I say this? When you watch videos on YouTube, sometimes there's people they're making enough money doing their video that they have a camera person who makes everything look good. They have an editor, and sometimes in the case of arts and crafts, maybe they have somebody who they take their stuff to and say, here, build me this and then show me how you did it, and I'll make money off it on YouTube. I'm not saying this guy did, but I think I may have overshot Jefferson Highway here. I don't know. There's like 2 or 3 routings. I don't know how many. There's some routings that I hardly ever take because well, you're seeing neighborhoods, and I don't have a map in front of me to keep me on track. So, to be honest with you, I don't exactly know where it is. I just know it's one of the original routes that zigzags through east of what used to be little towns here. It sort of follows the path of railroad. Might help if I turn on my GPS so I could sort of see it. I don't think this is the route. It's kind of too doing too many loop-de-loops. Once I kind of get on track, I can sort of see where the railroad went, because the roads kind of make this diagonal. All the other roads sort of go north-south, except for these noodle suburban type roads that just kind of noodle around everywhere. But the railroad kind of came through the area at a diagonal, kind of going, I think, southeast to northwest. Yeah, what's the name of that railroad? think well, maybe not. Holmes crosses over. It's been cut by the highway, and so it stops abruptly, and then you have to go around through North Oak and then east, and it picks back up again. Build an overpass for a road that it'll through. My mind is so home and Oxy. The windows in the dormers let in light without letting in pollution. Vaulted ceilings. I like that style of house. That way you kind of have this, what do they call them? Post and beam type houses. And that way you have a lot of light coming in, and it makes you feel less claustrophobic in your home. There's a mid-century modern that's been added to. There's a lot of mid-century modern houses. A lot of these are cookie cutter. There's a couple of houses. I have a feeling, for whatever reason, people covered up the dormers on a lot of these houses, the glass dormers. Because I see some with them, and then I see some without them, like somebody went ahead and sided up them, which, I don't know. It sort of defeats the purpose for me. Maybe somebody knows why they would do that. A lot of these are kind of cute little bungalow houses. Some have been added to. Here's one over here on the right, sort of a Brady Bunch style. And over here on the left, yeah, there's more of these. Somebody added solar to this one. Yeah, even the cheaper examples I like. There's one, a smaller one with a carport. I know you can find a lot of these kind of houses in Florida. You can find them everywhere, but I know there's a certain place in Florida that I saw some, and back when the housing market went bust, if we had the extra cash, we probably could have invested, but there's you never know where opportunity may take you, and we've been eyeballing Florida for different reasons. All right, well, I think that the Jefferson Highway zigzags through here, and I didn't. It zigged and I didn't zag. So busy looking at these mid-century modern homes. This neighborhoods are from like the 50s and 60s. That's when they built a lot of these style houses. Examples were built by developers and builders who were more high-end in their idea and attitudes, and you want to be modern, and that sort of fell out of favor as the 60s wore on. then by the 1970s it was like completely out. Well, we need to stay home. We also need to run errands too. It's tough for a lot of people to stay home. I mean, there's a lot of loneliness going on right now. People are embracing any kind of hope they can find. If you have a dog, that's a great thing, because then you can socially distance and walk your dog. I do my best when I have to go somewhere like a store to just stay away from people. But unfortunately, and some of the people who do this are people who should be really cautious. And unfortunately, a lot of times when you're in a store, what people will do is like, they're the only people in the world apparently. You know what I'm talking about. It's annoying. Like if you have to go look at something and somebody is just like standing there not paying attention, and they just don't, it doesn't matter what you need to do. They're just going to stand there and or like when you're like one time I was shopping for birthday cards, and I waited patiently for these people to take their time and find their card and lollygag, and then they finally left, and it was my turn to get my card, and I'm no sooner was I there 5 seconds, some guy stands right next to me, elbow to elbow. I mean, literally touching me, and I'm like, hey, And it's bad for those of us who are trying to be responsible. And I guess there's this thing where young people who are in their 20s, 30s, and teens think it's funny, aware that if they catch it, it won't hurt them, and it doesn't affect them, and I don't care if I kill somebody's grandma by spreading it. And some of these people have been trying to actually catch it. But a lot of the most egregious people that have been driving me crazy are people who are the most at risk. Elderly people. Like, there are a lot of elderly people who are just like, they've been listening to right-wing crazy radio and TV and Fox News, and they won't wear their masks because it's all a hoax, and they walk around in places and they don't care. They'll stand right next to you, and some of them I think even think it's funny to everybody's trying to avoid them, for their sake, and they're just kind of like, I don't care. I don't want to wear my mask. But you got and lecturing. I mean, I could catch it tomorrow. I'm definitely not the most innocent at everything I do. And I understand for everybody it's really, really been hard to deal with this. I have friends who are elderly. I have my parents. We have a good friend who's an old man. A friend of mine's father, and they're all suffering from the same thing. They have a terrible depression because for their safety and sake, everybody's isolating. And yeah, it's working because they feel isolated. They don't have anybody to talk to, and I mean, it's bad enough being an older person, much less. Everybody's kind of treating you like you have the, which isn't the case. I mean, the way a pandemic works is we're trying to be careful and not to spread it, in hopes that other people do the same courtesy to us, and we isolate and stay away. And I do another thing where I talk about a civil war that people fantasize they want to have happen in the United States. The fifth columnists, the Quisling movement, otherwise known as QAnon. Q stands for Quisling, as far as I'm concerned. And how they're doing the work of foreign governments that are trying to destabilize the United States so that these foreign governments can and just the federal government's response that we've had up until now, it's hopeful now, but the response was just completely coming at us from all different directions. I know the federal government, the United States federal government, wasn't the only government having a hard time with it, but I look at other countries that have done really, really well, and what have they done? And what they've done is they've listened to the experts. They've quarantined, isolated, tested. And when an outbreak occurs in a certain area, they lock it down. Instead of trying to lock down everyone, which is what you eventually have to do if you let the stuff spread everywhere. And our government was very lackluster because our leadership was lackluster. Had their heads in the sand, denied that there was even going to be a pandemic, and then when it was hitting, they kept denying that it was going to be bad, and just made it worse. And then they had their media mouthpieces sharing their rotten propaganda for them. And to think, the economy would have been damaged either way you look at it, but it would not be as damaged theoretically as it is now if we just did what was conventional wisdom, because human beings have been through pandemics before. We really do know how to deal with it. But when you got people who walking around who don't want to listen, think they're better than everybody else, think they're special, and any one of us can catch it, even if we take all the precautions. And usually where we catch it from is our own family members, not from doing the stuff like going to work or there are people who catch it from working and being exposed. But usually we get it from family gatherings where family members come together and, they're family, they're safe. I'm like, well, no, are they immediate family? Are there people that were in your own household? Yeah, no, they're not safe, and you're not safe. And I guess people have found out the hard way that they weren't safe when they get it. We've been holding off traveling. We have family that lives on the other side of the planet, in both directions, actually. We have family that lives in Europe and family that lives in Asia. And we would love to go visit them. We need to go visit them. Some of them are elderly, and chances are increasing that they may pass away before we get to see them again. And we've been like, no, we can't travel. Traveling is one of the worst things you could countries that are doing well, has blocked all travel, which is amazing because a huge percentage of the income of that country is tourism. And they've held discipline. They've been doing much better in the United States. And one of the things that they didn't just say, well, you know, some bars can, and you know, up until 10 o'clock p.m., you know, and if you wear a mask and socially distance. They said, no. People who go drinking aren't making the best decisions, and they're not going to socially distance, so all bars are shut. And they shut down most of the restaurants, dining rooms. I mean, in a country where a lot of people are really dependent, and they don't have a welfare system like we do in the United States, or a government that'll say, oh yeah, well, we're going to pay people to stay home. They don't have any of that. So it's really, at one point, it's admirable, their discipline, but at another point, it's really sad because more than even the United States, it hurts them. But they have had their pandemic issues very well under control. The number, you don't hear of this country, and I'm going to say what the country is the Philippines. You don't hear about this country. It's not like this pandemic country, and because problems in that country with disease and everything to start wiping out. And there's a lot of elderly people who live in the Philippines, and Korea has done really well. Because the Japanese leadership is kind of like American leadership. They're afraid to go up to people and say, no, you will do this. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. So they have a lot of bars and restaurants open, even when they've just gone into another emergency lockdown because it's been spreading there. Look at the streets. They're emptier than they used to be, and basically they've kind of shut down their tourism and travel. But people are walking all over the place, and the one thing about, but then as part of the custom and tradition that people wear their masks anyway. I guess it's considered common courtesy. Anyway, I'm done ranting. I'm here at my destination, so thank y'all.